Okay, so imagine this. What if farmers only had to pay for products if they actually worked?
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah, like imagine your fertilizer bill being based on how well your crops actually do.
Oh, wow.
That's exactly what Greenfort's doing with this new Riesgo Cero thing.
Really?
Yeah, Riesgo Cero 2.0. That's what we're going to dig into today.
Sounds interesting.
And you specifically wanted to unpack this whole program, and we've got some good stuff to look at. Like we've got the program descriptions and their data collection stuff, even some field maps.
Oh, cool.
So let's just jump right in.
Okay.
So Riesgo Cero 2.0, it's a pretty bold idea. What do you think?
Yeah, I think the most fascinating thing is how Greenfort is kind of flipping the script
Yeah.
with like the whole agricultural financing thing. They're basically saying, we're so confident in our product that you only pay us if you hit your yield targets.
It's a bold move. It's like they're completely putting their money where their mouth is.
Yeah, exactly. And they've structured this whole Riesgo Cero 2.0 thing into 3 tiers to try to like, I don't know, accommodate different farm sizes and needs.
So it's like a tiered system. So we've
Yeah.
got the 10 hectare, the 20 hectare, and then the 35 hectare option, which feels like the main event, right?
Exactly. And you can think of it as like the more land you enroll, the higher the potential reward is going to be.
Okay.
But obviously, that also means a slightly higher initial investment.
So the 10 hectare option, you're putting down 50% up front.
Yeah.
And then that gives you access to financing help and then some of their digital tools from Greenfort.
Exactly.
Okay.
And then if you go to that 20-hectare level, you're putting down 40% up front.
Okay.
But you're also getting way more personalized support from their team.
Oh, wow.
It's almost like having a dedicated team of advisors.
In your back pocket.
Yeah.
That's a pretty sweet deal. And then there's the 35 hectare option.
Now, this is where it gets interesting.
This is a big one.
This is the big leagues. You still only put down 30% up front.
Okay.
But the rest of the payment
Yeah.
completely depends on if you hit those yield targets that you've pre-agreed on.
Oh, wow.
And on top of that, you get all this data that they've collected.
So you're basically going all in,
Yeah.
but with a safety net.
Yeah, and it's all data-driven, which I think is really interesting. Honestly, you don't see this level of risk sharing in this industry very often. This Riesgo Cero model is really saying something. It shows how much they believe in their product's ability to get the job done
Yeah.
because they're taking on all the risk.
So they're taking a big risk, but how can they be so sure this whole thing is going to work?
Right.
They must have some pretty serious data backing this up.
Yeah, for sure. This isn't just like a random guess or something.
Yeah.
They've put a ton of work into testing and analyzing this product, and they actually included this whole document called Cero, which basically lays out their whole field trial process.
Okay, so tell me about this Decerolo document.
Okay.
What are they looking at?
So basically, they're comparing, it's like comparing apples to apples.
Yeah.
But in this case, it's treated crops versus untreated crops.
Gotcha.
So you've got the control group, and then you've got the group that's treated with Greenfort's product, which uses something called chitin.
Chitin.
Yeah, so chitin is this natural polymer, and it basically like helps boost the plant's resilience. It's like giving them armor against pests and diseases and stuff.
Okay.
And it's like a key ingredient in their fertilizer.
Okay.
So they're measuring how effective this chitin is on literally everything.
Wow.
We're talking about the overall yield, the quality of the crops. They're even looking at the health of individual roots.
That's really interesting. And I saw they even included some visuals in these documents, like maps of the fields they used in the trials. They're labeled polygonal tritomanto and polygonal testigo.
Right.
It's really cool to see the scale of it.
Yeah, and those maps just show how detail-oriented they are. And get this, they're not even just looking at the final yield.
So,
They're going way back and analyzing historical data, too.
wow.
They might even be using their Oravant platform for this.
What is Oravant?
Oh, so Oravant is this really advanced software platform.
Okay.
Farmers can use it to keep track of all sorts of things, like crop health, soil conditions, weather patterns, all of it.
Okay.
And by using that historical data along with real-time information, Greenfort can make these incredibly accurate comparisons and predictions.
This is less like farming and more like Wall Street.
Yeah, it's next level stuff. And the best part is they're not just comparing costs. They're also considering the projected market prices at harvest time. It's a really smart data-driven approach.
Yeah.
And it all feeds into what they're calling their data story.
Okay, so they've got all this data. But data on its own can be kind of, boring. Now, how do they make it interesting?
Right.
How are they crafting like a compelling story. That's where the data story comes in, right?
Right.
So how do they take all this data and make it into something that's actually interesting and meaningful for farmers?
Well, that's what I think is so clever. They get that farmers don't just want a bunch of numbers. They want to know what it all means, right?
Yeah.
So their data story is about showing the connections
Okay.
between their product and the data and how it all helps the farmer in the end.
So it's not just, hey, trust us, our product works. It's, here's the data, here's what it means for your farm, and here's how it can make you more successful.
Exactly. It's all about proof and being transparent. And I think that's really powerful. But this Riesgo Cero 2.0 thing, it's not just about selling this one product.
Right.
It could actually change the whole way we think about financing in agriculture.
Do you think it could have that big of an impact?
I do, because imagine if venture capitalists were as interested in field trials as they are in software demos now.
Interesting.
That would be huge. This data-driven approach could totally change how people think about risk and investing in agriculture.
That's a really good point. It's like they're taking this Silicon Valley approach and bringing it to farming.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's not even just about the money.
Okay.
This level of transparency and data sharing actually gives farmers more power.
Okay.
Because they can stop relying on guesswork or what they've always done and start making decisions based on real data.
So instead of just being told what works, they understand why and how it works.
Exactly. And that can lead to farming practices that are way more efficient and sustainable, which helps everybody.
Yeah, that's a good point. So we started with this whole idea of farmers only paying if the product works.
Yeah.
We talked about how important data is to this whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're seeing how it could change the entire industry.
It's definitely a bold move.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying Riesgo Cero 2.0 is going to be the new standard, but it's shaking things up
Yeah.
and making people think about the future of agriculture in a whole new way.
It really makes you wonder what's next. Will we see more companies taking this approach?
Yeah.
Will data become the most important thing in agriculture? It's definitely an exciting time to be paying attention to this. And I think this deep dive has been a really interesting look at what might be coming next in the world of agriculture. Hopefully this has given you some things to think about too.